Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Outside the Box Stories. I'm your host, Ben Rogers, and I'm with my good friend here, Ryan Oglesby. And Ryan is a part of our marketing team. We've been working together for how long, Ryan?
Man, I don't know. It's over 2 years now, right?
It feels like you've been with us forever.
That's good. Is it a good or bad thing?
As soon as I said that, I'm like, man, that doesn't sound that great. But dude, you've been so much fun to work with. I've had a blast with you.
At you.
And just for the audience here, this a little behind the scenes is, what our main goal was to create an internal communications machine, an internal marketing machine, and Ryan has been a huge part of that. Why don't you tell everybody kind of your background, what it is that you do, and some of the projects you've been working on with us?
Sure. Well, Ben and I got connected through some old friends, kind of on an off chance, and then at the time I was freelancing and fresh out of college and just building some websites on the side, and so we started to work together on the website as you all see it now. And I help out with a lot of the social graphics and some graphics that go with a lot of this content that you guys are making. And really, I mean, it is a team effort. I'll say you guys are incredible about making the content and always keeping things going. And so I'm just there for the ride and to help things look pretty. That's my main focus, but you guys are great, and it's been a lot of fun to work together.
Yeah, it's really interesting. The looking pretty part is such a big deal.
Yeah, it is.
It really is. And we've had, lots of different shows over the past, 2-3 years working with you. We started with Carb Watch. We have 5 at 5, which is now a live Q&A show.
Right.
We've had dictations and doctor's notes. All these different things, what Ryan has done is helped us compartmentalize all these different pieces of content we put out every week and kind of brand the shows. And now, we have Outside the Box, which is the show that we're on now. And we've got the Common Sense MD. And what you've done is basically, allowed us to put an image with these different, I like to call them pockets of content.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's been so much fun. And tell us, what's, in terms of design and graphics, what's kind of your specialty? Where do you feel most comfortable?
Well, by the nature of my job, I've had to get comfortable with everything, right?
Okay.
But you guys have been great about letting me be creative, and it's not, a lot of times you approach a client or someone and they have very strict, we only play within these lines. So there's only so much creativity that goes into it, I think what I've enjoyed about working with you is, hey man, make it look cool, and I think it's worked out for us. Obviously we have a strong brand going.
Yeah.
Excuse me, but colors and things like that we stick to. But I like being able to freestyle it and also, stay consistent with the image.
So is that kind of your sweet spot, is just, having like wiggle room
absolutely.
To play around a little bit.
I think you're always going to get better in products like that too.
Not without the constraints.
Yeah, because I think it opens your mind to other possibilities if you have them. If you don't, it's like, well, how much? Change the color, you know what I mean? Change the font. And so having some wiggle room is really important, at least for me.
So what's like the tool you use the most, as far as, you've done a lot of work with us. What are you using to create the things that, like you guys are seeing on my hat? This is Ryan's. This is Ryan's work right here, and same with the Outside the Box logo you're going to see. What's your tool of choice? What's that process like?
Well, you learn in school that you got to get really familiar with the Adobe Creative Suite entirely. So things like the logo you mentioned are all Adobe Illustrator. That's just for like vector graphics that you can then scale and place them wherever you want to later. But Photoshop is probably my most used, especially for you guys when it comes to social graphics and thumbnails and things like that. That's kind of where you can put all the pieces together. So those are definitely the top two programs I'm using.
This is actually for my own curiosity.
All right.
Is we've had a bunch of different things, like I mentioned, with dictations and now the Common Sense MD, outside the box. Matching it with our website, what's your mindset been like? How do you? One of my big things with you is like, hey, let's make sure that everybody knows that this is a performance medicine piece of content. Even though it's an outside the box show, what's your thought process been like in terms of how do we create these different things, but all with kind of pointing back to performance medicine?
I think there is always an overall a brand voice, right?
Yeah.
And so that's kind of, it might sound silly, but it does come from the initial color palette and the fonts you choose. And it's like, we don't take ourselves too seriously. I think that's at least what we've come up with for you. Professional, clean, but it doesn't have to be super serious, things like that. So that's kind of in the back of my mind as I put these things together, is like, what's our overall tone here? And then, once you define those things, it gets really easy, to be honest, to carry it throughout. I mean,
yeah, it feels like, when we first started, the start was kind of the most difficult in the sense, okay, let's find our pattern here. Let's get our constraints, even though, they're large constraints, but let's put them in place, and that way we can play around, in the middle.
Yeah, and that's why you see, in bigger, like a corporate brand guidelines packet, that's important to people like that, because it sticks you to, here's the colors we use, here's the font, don't alter this, don't move that. And then it's easy to recreate afterward. But a lot of the creativity and thought goes into that initial step like you're talking about.
So what's your thoughts on, some of the marketing in terms of like marketing a medical practice? Have you seen, like, what do you think the important things are? Like we've talked a lot about, okay, Dr. Rogers, let's, make sure his voice is heard. But also performance medicine as a brand and as lots of locations, that sort of thing, and a lot of people that are really good underneath that umbrella. What's your thoughts around marketing medical?
Well, I think like everything else, it's gone more and more digital, right?
Yeah.
And then even as you guys start to do more telemedicine and things like that, I mean, it's a changing business, and a lot are.
Yeah.
So, and it's only going to pick up the pace, right? So,
yeah.
But I think you do a really good job of staying with that moving, dial. And and you're also talking to people in the right places by doing things like this.
Yeah.
Doing a lot of content on YouTube, catching them on Facebook. It's where people are.
Yeah.
So it's not, that's different than it ever has been,
Yeah. And one of the things, I mean, we call this show Outside the Box, and that was super intentional. It was intentional in that, we see performance medicine as doing outside the box type medicine. Yeah. And I think, the conversations I've had with you and Jenny is, let's try to do things outside the box in the way we communicate. And that's what, was born, these shows and these different ways of creating, lots of content.
Oh yeah.
And, and it's just interesting, the whole process.
Yeah. I think, when you serve it up to people where they already are, you're way ahead, and you're helping them, because then people don't have to find you. There's no search involved. It's, hey, these guys are giving us information. It's for free. It's right here where I'm at anyway.
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
Yeah. And really, that's been the whole thing. Is like, okay, and it kind of started when I was with Dr. Rogers, who, as you know, is my dad. We were at a Starbucks, and there's two people over the course of 10 minutes asking him what he thought about. It was two.
No way.
Yeah, it was two different vitamins. One, I think it was like vitamin D and some sort of probiotic, and so he was just talking, just telling him what he thought, and so the idea was, okay, how could we somehow scale that so that people don't have to think that they have to run into him or come into the office.
Yeah.
So the idea was like, if you want to know Dr. Rogers' thoughts on vitamins or, any sort of medicine, the whole, situation with COVID, like you can find that, on YouTube. You don't have to come into the office to get that sort of information.
Yeah, I think that's great.
And it really kind of, decreases the friction between a patient and a provider, which is really the point.
Yeah, I mean, like it or not, we all want things yesterday and make it easy as possible, right? So
Yeah.
that helps. Have you had any celebrity sightings out in public yet?
No.
No? Oh, okay.
No celebrity sightings.
Just
Just
Dr. Tom.
Just Dr. Tom.
Okay, fair enough.
Just Dr. Rogers. I blend in very well.
Okay.
Yeah,
That's what the hat's for.
Yeah.
All right.
I blend in very well, and most of the time I get is, who is this guy? You know,
All right. Well,
who is
it'll
this?
come.
Who is
It'll
this guy
come.
with Dr. Rogers? You know, but yeah, it's just been such a blast to be able to think outside the box and the way we do these communications, and you know, and you've helped me a lot in terms of, you know, the story. You know,
Yeah.
how can we package, you know, integrative medicine, this new way of thinking, into some sort of story that resonates with people. You have thoughts on stories, actually? Like how do you look at that? Because I know you're super artistic and creative.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I mean it.
Yeah. You know, I think with you guys, and maybe this isn't exactly to your point, but a big thing for me is it helps to have something that's meaningful. And you guys are doing a great thing by giving people this information for free to just make themselves generally healthier. Mm-hmm. I think that's huge when, you know, you're doing the work and in the back of your mind, you know, it's for a greater good. Mm-hmm. That can kind of inherently become story, I suppose.
Sure.
You know?
And like, you know, I think, you know, one of our main goals is to help people make better decisions.
Yeah.
So like, you know, and you can't really do that unless you have the facts, you know, have something to go by. And, you know, to be honest with you, whether you come to performance medicine or not, like, that's not really the point. You know, the point.
Well, exactly. And that's part of it.
Yeah. The point is so that you have the information you need to do what's best for you, you know, whatever that may be. Cause you know, there's, you know, a fit for everybody.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, it's just super
and
fascinating.
what works for one might not for another. So, yeah.
What do you think about that in terms of like marketing and, you know, the way your role is in terms of like finding that fit, you know, like, because a lot of the different creatives that we do are geared towards different groups of people. Like,
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I see what you're saying. Well, I mean, that kind of, I don't want to drill this into the ground, but it does go back to, you know, what's your voice, and while you make those decisions, it's who are you talking to, almost more importantly, right?
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of secret sauce in marketing that goes to, you know, what kind of visual look is going to apply toward women in their 40s to 60s, right?
Sure.
Versus men in their 20s to 40s, you know, and obviously those are different looks. That's not any kind of, that's not a brain buster, right?
Yeah.
But there is an element of that goes into, hey, we're talking to you. We might as well give you what you think looks nice, right?
Right. And something that you connect with, you know, something that looks familiar. That might be the word.
Absolutely. That is it. Yeah.
Like something that's
you nailed it.
familiar to the people that we're, you know, putting it in front of, which is super fascinating because to me, what that says, like, there's an endless amount of, you know, creative that, you know, can go with, you know, the same message.
Right.
You know,
right.
the same thing out. I mean, for the people watching, maybe you saw the post we put, I think it was on Instagram and Facebook about vitamin D, where you had Dr. Rogers putting up the sign, "Take vitamin D." And, you know, part of that was, it was just a different way of saying take vitamin D.
Right.
You know,
right.
and he'd already, you know, he says take vitamin D in almost every video he does.
Yeah.
But this was just it was a picture that resonated in a different way.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and that part of it is unpredictable in nature.
Yeah.
You know, like what determines going viral.
Right.
You know? I mean, if anybody could figure that recipe out, you'd be so loaded.
Right. Right.
Yeah, but that's really interesting because no matter how much of this stuff you do, you just never know like what's really going to hit and what might be a total miss.
Yeah.
So,
well, one thing, I'm going to put you on the spot.
All right.
We're, for the people, performancemedicine.net is our website. Where do you see our website going? You know, what sort of vision do you have? You know, we've talked a lot about making it super simple. So we're trying to make it so that it's very easy to navigate. And, you know, if you want to get a hold of us, you can get a hold of us. if you want to, find a piece of information on, such and such topic, you can find that. What's your vision on that?
I think, as I mentioned before, with as much content as you guys are making, it's going to be important we're going to start to separate a little bit, which is, hey, I'd like to make an appointment, and that's 2 clicks away, And then also, we're going to make it really easy to access this huge catalog of content you guys are making. Yeah. So I think that's important because, like we said, it is for everybody.
Right.
Whether they come to you in the end or not, we're still giving them the resources.
Right.
And so I think we're going to make it easier and easier for people to access that catalog. I think that's really important.
Yeah, it's one thing, we've talked a lot about is like, okay, well, why would somebody come to the website? And we determined, okay, well, it's either they want to get a hold of us or they want to find out more.
Right.
And I think, we've had lots of meetings about, okay, how can we make that as simple as possible, so that they know, okay, if they want to find out more about hormones, it's easy to navigate. If they want to, give one of the offices a call, easy to navigate. So I hadn't heard the 2-click thing. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And then if anybody's having a hard time, let us know.
Yeah.
I might regret opening that can of worms, but we'll take all the feedback we can get.
A flood of comments of suggestions for what we need to do.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to forward those straight to you.
Okay.
Yeah. Just so you know, if you guys have suggestions,
can we edit that part out? No, I'm kidding.
It's going right to Ryan. But man, it's been so much fun getting to work with you and look at what we're doing in a different way. And you've really helped us start this media company type thing, which is really, what we're after. And your creativity is a huge part of that.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm happy to work alongside you guys. I think you're doing a really cool thing. And I think it's a new age model for this kind of business. I think it's going to carry you a long way, and I think you're getting important information to people. So
super cool. Yeah. Man. Well, guys, this is Ryan Oglesby. This has been a Storytime edition of Outside the Box. Just so everybody knows, he is the creator of all the images on our website. Any logo you see is a Ryan Oglesby creation.
All right, I like that.
A creation,
get a trademark.
A creation we gave him a whole bunch of wiggle room with, and he's done a great job of narrowing it down so that it makes sense. So if everything makes sense to you guys, it's because of this guy.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Guys, this has been Outside the Box Stories. I'm your host, Ben Rogers. This is Ryan Oglesby. We will see you guys next time.